'Tis the season to be jolly. Fa la 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 la. What is up, freaks? Got a Christmas rip here. Vibes are high. We're spreading joy. This isn't a doomer episode. We're here to talk about the good things in life, the good things in Bitcoin. Mr. Odell, how the hell are you doing? That looks like a fresh Citadel Dispatch cap. Is that no?
Merry Christmas, Marty. Merry Christmas, Logan. Merry Christmas, freaks. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think this is a newish one. There's many that just float around.
Yeah. Well, it's looking fresh. We've got a lot to talk about. There's a lot going on. Thought it'd be a slow news week, but obviously Bitcoin never sleeps. We're doing an early coffee rip here. It is 10 a.m. on the East Coast, 10:05, where we both are. As you can see, I have a beautiful, aesthetically pleasing Christmas village behind me. Shout out to my sister-in-law and brother-in-law for letting me use their dining room to record this. I could not do it at my in-laws' house. My kids are screaming right now. Yeah.
It's definitely one of your nicer backgrounds in the history of the show. So
I hope the cold open was respected too. I just had the background of standing away from me. Why don't we do like a little cold open? We'll walk in from the side. How are you feeling? You tired?
I'm exhausted. Well, one day I'll get a proper vacation.
Yeah. When is that going to happen? Are we going to have like vacation together so that we can do like a rabbit hole recap? We'll do like a 3-week vacation.
Post hyper Bitcoinization. I don't fucking know, but I mean, it's great to be with family. I think Christmas is good to realign your priorities and to remind yourself how lucky a lot of us are. And I know I personally am very grateful for the position I'm in and the people that surround me, my family and my friends. But also at the same time, family is absolutely exhausting. And I'm still working at the same time. So.
Yeah, co-sign all of that. It does feel good to be home, even though we'll be here for 2 weeks. And by the end of 2 weeks, I'm sure I'll be itching to get back to Austin, Texas, and to get back to my own bed. But it's important.
Wait, so you're there for 2 weeks, and then you're flying to Nashville?
Yes.
Flying to Austin and then Nashville.
I'll be back in Austin for 6 days, then be flying to Nashville for the open house you guys have at the Bitcoin Park, the mining energy open house, and then the energy and mining event on the 12th and 13th.
We're gonna do rabbit hole recap in person while you're in town there, right?
I was assuming so, yeah.
January 11th?
12th.
Yeah, January
11th
11th.
Wednesday. Yeah.
Oh, January 12th. Yeah. Well, my head's a little bit. Well, freaks. Marty mentioned January 11th. Meetup, free beer, energy and mining, Bitcoin Park. Go to bitcoinpark.co to RSVP. A lot of surprises in store. We might. There's going to be a lot of fun is going to be had that week in Nashville. So come down and join us. And Marty, I guess maybe we should. I mean, we can. Whatever. We're on air talking business, but it'd be kind of cool if we did a rip in the event space and did it with a live audience.
I'm down.
But we can figure that out.
You think we can figure the live stream out for
that? Yeah, I have a camera.
Rod, if you're listening, everybody at Bitcoin Park, if it's streaming on the TVs there, we've got a few weeks to figure out the live stream for live RHR.
Yeah, let's do that. Come to Nashville for the meetup and stay for the live RHR.
Yeah, it'll be well, how's that going to work out with when does the mining, like the smaller event or the
The summit, the invite only summit.
Yeah, the summit.
The summit's going to be Thursday and Friday, so we're going to have to figure something out. But we have the whole campus, so I think we can figure something out.
Yeah, I really like what you guys are doing with this like very focused, like, month in and month out, different topic. I'm really excited for the energy mining summit, the caliber of individuals in the mining space and the energy space, at the political level too. I'm gonna be able to work with some local representatives to show them why mining is a good thing for their energy systems. But just comparing that to like the conference grind, I really like these small, focused sprints that you guys do month in and month out.
Yeah, that's why we're calling them summits, because it's not a conference. It's more intimate than that. No photos, no videos, invite only. So just to make it clear to the freaks, because it can be a little bit confusing, January 11th is the meetup that's open to the public. That's completely free, includes free beer. There will be food for purchase. We'll just be kicking it. There'll be panels, Q&A. It'll be great. And then the following 2 days are going to be an invite-only summit of the same name. We still have some spots available. That event is ticketed, but it includes drinks and food. So if you're interested in joining us for that as well, you can RSVP to the wait list on bitcoinpark.co. If you are interested, get on that ASAP, because space is significantly limited on that one. But for the open house, open to the public, come join us for free.
It'll be fun. It's gonna be my second month in a row in Nashville. It's becoming
Love it.
It's becoming a month in and a month out.
It's a pretty easy flight from Austin and vice versa.
Really easy. It's really easy. They have a ton of flights, and they're really cheap. I'm not gonna lie. When I came back from the beef initiative and the Cattlemen's Association summit, I flew back on a Saturday afternoon. It's not a very popular time of week to fly. Airport was empty. My flight was empty. I got asked if I wanted to upgrade to first class for like $80, and I did it. And maybe it was a bit high kind preference of me, but I had never flown first class, and I wanted to see what that experience was like. It was pretty marvelous. I don't know if I'm ever going back. I actually made my wife and kids sit back in economy while I sat in first on the way here yesterday.
No, really?
No, God, no. I would not be here right now. I'd be dead in a ditch.
I had to clarify, because pretty close to your lady, and I'm pretty sure she wouldn't stand for that.
No. We had an eventful flight home. That's why we're recording on Friday. Thank you for being flexible. We were supposed to fly out this morning originally, but due to this Arctic blast, this polar vortex, the winds in Newark, where we fly into this afternoon, are looking pretty bad. So we moved it up to yesterday. It seems like turning out to be a good idea. Our flight is delayed significantly right now that we would have been on. But yeah, first
it's pretty crazy. Nashville's colder than New York right now.
Yeah, I saw Rod tweeting out it's -1. It's negative territory there. Yeah. Flying, point of the story I'm trying to get to is flying with 2 kids under 3 is torturous. The 6-month-old did okay, but the almost 3-year-old, last hour of the flight, had a conniption. He was up since 4 a.m., freaked out. And then we're walking like off the plane, like through the airport, complete meltdown. I had to take care of him, like literally just like hawked him over my shoulder and walking him through the airport. And he's screaming to everybody, to the packed airport around Christmas travel time, help me, like I'm kidnapping my son. There may be some videos of people who caught us walking to the airport and were like, this kid's getting kidnapped. It's not being kidnapped, it was just being
it's got
escorted
a
through
very,
the airport.
very good family in life.
But we're not here to talk about weather, travel. We're here to talk about Bitcoin. Let's start off the Clark's dashboard. Current price of Bitcoin is 16,814 cuck bucks. One cuck buck's going to get you 5,947 sats. Currently sitting at a 323.5 billion cuck buck market cap. We are at block height 768,643. I talked about the most recent difficulty adjustment last week because it happened just before the rip. We are 1,469 nice blocks away from the next adjustment, which is estimated to be on the 2nd of 2023, January 2nd. Right now, it's estimated to be a negative 4.6 adjustment downwards. Blocks have been coming in at 10 minutes and 32 seconds on average. There are currently 10,304 transactions in Clark's mempool. First time we've been in five digits and quite a bit. Whirlpool, whirling right now. This might be a new all-time high on the show, 6,355.56 Bitcoins. That's 106.
I feel like it's essentially a new all-time high every week, like over the last 3 months.
Yeah. Why do you think that is? More people using Sparrow, more people being aware, this exodus from exchanges.
Yeah, I mean, I think it goes. I think it goes hand in hand with the self-custody education.
Mm-hmm.
People are actually starting to. I don't know. Also, bear markets are just good, right? Like I learned so much. 90% of what I learned in Bitcoin, I learned during bear markets because you what else do you have to do, right? Like then you focus on improving your actual skills rather than getting caught up in all the noise of bull market chaos bullshit.
Yeah. It is a great time to get back to basics and brush up on best practices, maybe try out some new software that you've heard about but haven't explored yet, and then maybe check your keys and your backups and your passphrases and all that, and then try to innovate too. I mean, it's been fun. I mean, obviously we've both been talking about this for months now, but it seems like with Nostr over the last 3 weeks, activity and more than activity, but improvement, particularly for Damus. I know that's what I'm using on iOS, has improved significantly. It's been really cool to see Nostr, the different clients begin to pick up steam.
It's popping.
It really
Nostr
is
fantastic. I'm
you're posting there more now these days.
They get good morning, stay humble, stack sats before the Twitter peeps. We're front running everyone on Twitter.
Really are. It is a really cool environment, though. It's very
strong momentum. Love to see it.
Yeah, it's a mixture of like what you'd see on Twitter, but a lot of people collaborating in the open on how to improve Nostr and the different clients. Rodolfo's been building some stuff. Obviously, JB55, Fiat Joff have been contributing. I saw Suheb helped with the latest Damus UI that they just released. So if you're using Damus version 0.1.8, which just released recently, it's a massive improvement.
One thing I really like about it is because Dorsey gave the grant, because Dorsey then went over there and started using it heavily, there's just a massive influx of people at the same time. And so I just love like the, testing in production, like literally it's just being built out while it's just getting hammered, right? So like relay going down, like edge cases are being discovered. Like you see JB55 like on there live trying to combat like impersonators coming in and faking people or porn spam or whatever it is. And that it brings me back to like early days of Bitcoin, right? Where it's just like everything's out in production. There's attackers everywhere, and you're just kind of iterating and building, as quick as possible to combat that stuff. Obviously, stakes are not as high as Bitcoin because you're not trying to create a global financial network. But it's pretty cool to witness the momentum shift over the last 2 weeks compared to maybe the year previous.
Hmm.
That's pretty awesome. One thing I would say to people that are using Nostr, like if you're not using your own relay, you are exposing your IP address to the relays you're connecting to. So make sure you are using a VPN. There's also some issues on the profile picture side from a privacy perspective because the pictures are hosted on different. The profile pictures are hosted on different services, so they're like pinging those services. So just keep that in mind. Also, you can't delete, which I kind of love, but just remember that when you press the send button.
Can't delete it. Yeah, that's actually, people have been asking me to put my profile picture up there, but I'm not comfortable with my setup on the back end to actually go like share my pub keys with like Astral or something like that to make it happen.
Yeah, people are just like signing into websites with they're just pasting private keys into websites. Like
Yeah.
Damus Web got like compromised, and like JB55 just like pulled it from the internet for a little bit.
Yeah, that's the reason. That's the
Alby,
reason I
which
don't
is
have.
the Lightning. Yeah.
I was gonna say I'm not pasting my private key in anything, so I'll have the robot
But
happy.
you can get around it if you use Alby, because Alby now has support for Nostr keys,
Hmm.
which is the Lightning browser extension. And Freaks also, you might remember that every time I talk about Alby, I say, remember that it has permissions to read every website. The reason it needs that is, to pay Lightning addresses as you come across them. But if you're using Alby for Nostra, you can whitelist websites. So you can whitelist it to only, whatever Nostra web client you're using. So just keep that in mind.
Beware.
But yeah,
Folks.
it's awesome. It's really cool. It's really cool to see.
Yeah, I think it was GG. What do we say? Like, what's the equivalent of tweeting on Nostra?
It's just a
News
post.
thing, a posting. I think GG said like the excitement around Nostra is particularly unique because I'm paraphrasing here, but like it can only improve from here, become more scalable, quicker as more people add relays, and the UX can only improve because it is pretty. I mean, I've been using Damus predominantly, and it's got
It's still super
workable UX.
rudimentary. And Damus
Yeah,
is the most polished, but
yeah,
it's super rudimentary. That's what makes it
yeah.
fun, I mean, because the relays are failing and stuff, like you like press the retweet button, or they call it the boost button. And then, like you get disconnected from relays, and then you sign back in, and then like it's a different like count. It's a different retweet count. Like followers are lost, followers are gained. Like it's just constantly, yeah, I don't know. The cool part to me is that, just vibes are high and everything's being tested in production. And it just feels like it's just exciting.
Yeah.
But poor JB55 and Fiat Chop, because talking about not getting a vacation,
Well, not
they were
getting
just
vacation.
completely screwed.
Looks like JB55's Fiat bosses found out what he was doing and cut him loose.
What are you gonna do? That's rough.
Yeah, I mean, I feel comfortable saying this because he was posting this on Nostra, but
I know.
fuck him.
Well, at least he got a grant.
He got a grant, and I think no, I think it's a sign. I think, I think his passion obviously seems to be on Nostra and Damus, and it'd be really cool to see if he's able to dedicate all of his time to it and see what that brings. So
Yeah, we'll make sure to get him funding, whether that's him and Fiat Joff, whether that's through 1031 or OpenSats or whatnot.
yeah,
We'll get him supported.
we will be here. All right, let's get to the list. A lot going on this week, actually. despite it being a holiday week. We're supposed to have the holiday doldrums here, but big news: Core Scientific filed for bankruptcy on the 20th, so a few days ago. But it plans to keep on mining. So obviously, Core Scientific. We've talked about them. Is that me? Is that you?
Largest what?
I feel like a burst of sound over here. Now it's better. Yeah,
It's because I keep muting. Can you hear it when I unmute?
What was it? Is
you
it
hear
a
right
train
now?
going by? No,
it's fucking gardeners and the neighbors are here on Friday, December 23rd. They only come when I go live on RHR, but I'll keep muting myself. But Core Scientific is, or was, the largest publicly traded Bitcoin miner, so this is pretty massive.
Yeah. Well, before we go into the CoreSci news, I mean, I think considering what I was willing to do this summer when a neighbor was interrupting RHR, I think you have to go outside and say, "Hey, I'll mow your lawn. Just wait a couple hours. I'll take care of it."
Okay, I'm gonna move rooms is what I'm gonna do. So just continue talking, and I'm gonna move.
All right. We'll talk about CoreSci. Like Matt said, Core Scientific was the largest publicly traded Bitcoin miner in the US. They had a significant amount of hash rate. For those of you who are unaware, CoreSci's business model was, I believe, they're like 55% prop mining, which means they own their own ASICs and their own power contracts, and they mined for themselves. And then the other 45% was hosted mining. That may be reverse, maybe the other way, but whatever. They had a business model that was a mixture of prop and hosted mining. We've come to find that one of the largest customers on the hosting side was Celsius. Celsius was had a significant mining operation. It became apparent that they were hosting most of that operation with Core Scientific. Obviously, they went bankrupt earlier this year. They blew up. So I guess that with their Core Scientific having their largest hosting client go under and go into bankruptcy probably caused problems for their business. On top of that, it seems that Core Scientific also ran into electricity pricing problems, obviously with the environment of energy markets and energy prices going up. If you don't have a good power purchase agreement locked in with your power provider as a Bitcoin miner, and your energy costs are variable, and therefore your electricity costs are variable, he's in the pantry. You're subjected to
in
your
my
prices
parents'
going up.
basement pantry right now.
It's definitely quieter.
This is not like just one neighbor gardener doing his own lawn. It's like a fleet of fucking gardeners. They're like everywhere. So I'm in the basement.
I like it. It's a very quiet room. Back to CoreSci, though, just explaining how CoreSci got into this situation. A few months ago, we talked about the fact that they had to raise their hosting rates to around 10 cents a kilowatt hour for a lot of their customers, most of their customers. That immediately made all their customers unprofitable. They were losing money if they were mining with CoreSci, because any mining machine that wasn't an S19 XP was unprofitable at 10 cents a kilowatt hour. And none of their customers probably had XPs. So here we are, fast forward today. CoreSci's largest hosting customer, Celsius, went under, so that definitely hurt their business. Their energy costs went up significantly, which forced them to pass that on to their customers, which made their customers unprofitable. And so that likely led to their customers unplugging and taking that revenue away from the business. And on top of all that, I believe it was last month they announced that they were not going to be making payments on the debt that they owed. So anybody who's been following along could probably see that bankruptcy was a likely scenario in the future. With that being said, as the CNBC article mentions, shout out to Mackenzie who broke that news. They do plan to keep on mining throughout all this, through the bankruptcy proceedings as they restructure everything. And that's one thing we actually didn't talk about last week, that I did have on the list but forgot to mention, was there was a creditor of Core Scientifics that came out and announced that they were willing to extend, I believe it was a $72 million line of capital. I forget if it was credit or equity injection, or I forget exactly what the nature of the capital was, but they did have one of the people they owe money to willing to put up a significant amount of capital to help them get through this bear market. But looks like they're going into bankruptcy, going to
Well, it's
restructure.
because most of their loans are presumably ASIC collateralized loans, right? And
Yeah. Well,
those ASICs aren't worth much right now.
I don't know if that particular lender though would have had the infrastructure to set up like an ASIC collateralized loan. It might have just been like a pure vanilla, like typical deal.
Just a non-collateralized loan.
Maybe it was collateralized with something else. I forget who was it. I have it actually in here from last week.
Because we have Greenwich mining on the list, where NYDIG basically took over a bunch of their hash, and now Greenwich, instead of primarily running their own machines, now the majority of their hash is actually owned by NYDIG, and they're going to continue hosting them for them. And it's like NYDIG really had no option there. If they didn't agree to that deal, they would have had to try and take custody of a bunch of ASICs that they didn't know how to run. So they gave them like basically a sweetheart deal, because it was the only deal they could make, where they basically take over the hash, but it's still hosted by Greenwich.
Yeah, this is. I mean, many people have described these ASIC collateralized loans as a bit predatory because of the nature of the collateral being very volatile and tightly correlated to the price of Bitcoin. Obviously puts the lender at a disadvantage, and then a high cost of capital associated with these loans as well is also a disadvantage to the lender. So many people who saw these loans come to market were like, hey, this is a great way to get to lose your assets. And for these the borrower, it's bad for the borrower in both those scenarios, not the lender.
It's bad for both of them. It's bad for the lender too, like, because when you need the fucking collateral, it's fucking worthless.
Right. Well, so this is where like the predatory theory comes into it, where it's like, yes, it's worthless at the time that you repossess the ASICs, but if you're really long Bitcoin and Bitcoin mining, and you think the price of Bitcoin is going to recover, therefore the price of those ASICs are going to recover, it's like a great way to acquire ASICs on the cheap via repossession. But not saying that's the intent of any of these lenders. And that's like going back to Greenwich and NYDIG. So like you said, yes, they acquired 2.8 exahash of Greenwich miners that were collateralized in a loan with NYDIG. And like you said, they simply just changed ownership from Greenwich to NYDIG, and miners stayed plugged in, and Greenwich is just hosting.
Yeah, they probably didn't even unplug them. They just like
no.
They might not even change the Bitcoin address that it gets paid out to, because they just
maybe not. Yeah, because they were like probably
they just do it in like an Excel document, like, we'll pay you at the end of the month or some shit.
Yeah, or they just like change the hash to a sub account associated with NYDIG. But no, I think this Greenwich NYDIG situation is pretty unique, right? Because that's been one of the lingering questions in regards to these ASIC collateralized loans, and if they do go bad, what do the lenders do with the collateral? Companies like NYDIG, Galaxy, Foundry, and others, like, they obviously offer mining services to miners, and some of them do mine, but do they really want to get into mining and have direct exposure to hash rate at this level with all these repossessions? Is that what they want to do? No.
They had no choice, right? They had zero choice. It was their only option.
Yeah. And so and I think Greenwich is a very unique situation, right? Because Greenwich owns that power plant, they own that utility. And so they have like this transition to actually repossess the miners and then host with Greenwich is probably going to be the cleanest type of repossession that you see in this environment. Since Greenwich owned all that infrastructure, it was very easy for them to say, all right, we're not going to pay back the loans, but we're still running a business here. We need revenue. So we'll just give the miners to you. They're yours now, but you're hosting with us. And so we're going to get that revenue on the electricity that you're paying for to host with us. So that's like a very clean deal. But when it gets to others, like CoreSci, I don't think they own the infrastructure. They're not as vertically integrated as Greenwich is. They're depending on other utility companies that they don't own and power purchase agreements that could get reneged. And so when it comes to a CoreSci, if they go through bankruptcy and they get some of their ASICs repossessed for the lender, it's going to be a bit of a harder situation to solve in terms of what to do with those ASICs.
Yeah, I mean, I get the argument that like savvy lenders could use these ASIC collateralized loans as basically a way to cheaply acquire hash. But I think for the overwhelming majority of them, they were unsophisticated, reckless, and didn't really understand the implications of cutting that loan, and were just banking on getting the interest payments because they didn't think Bitcoin would fall so hard so quickly, and they didn't think ASIC prices would fall with them so hard so quickly. So I think if when all this is said and done and everything is cleared and we see the aftermath and the results, I think a lot of lenders are wrecked. I think a lot of borrowers are wrecked. I think both sides, there's just going to be a lot of carnage there.
Yeah. Like again, I think this Greenwich NYDIG situation is very unique. NYDIG got a bit lucky in this particular deal because of the fact that Greenwich owns all their infrastructure. This transition was very easy, but yeah, for all the other situations, I don't think it's going to be that easy. And then even with this Greenwich situation, I wouldn't be surprised if NYDIG it's just like, all right, we need to make revenue on this collateral as quickly as possible. So keep them plugged in. We'll keep hosting with you. And I don't think their intention is to host with Greenwich long term. They'll probably wait for the price of Bitcoin to recover and the price of per terahash to recover, and then they'll try to flip those machines in the hosting contract to somebody in the middle of a bull run.
Yeah. I mean, but the real question is, right, like what happens with the next generation of miners and what kind of efficiency improvements do we see? And what are the current generation of miners value at, even if when Bitcoin goes up?
Yeah.
Right. Because difficulty will probably keep going up. Hash will probably keep going up. New rigs are going to be coming online.
Yeah, when you think about like the XPs, the M50S series from MicroBT, I mean, they're producing significant, I believe the M50 is like around 140 terahash a second. And then that efficiency is like 24 watts terahash, which is extremely efficient. Yeah. And at that point, for like the S19J Pros, the M30S Plus Pluses, that tier of miner, it's all going to be about energy costs. And that's what I'm trying to think. I think Greenwich's all-in cost is around 4 cents a kilowatt hour, which is really good.
It's New York Hydro, right?
No, it was a refurb. This is why they get a lot of hate in New York. They basically brought back to life a mothballed natural gas power plant. I'm pretty sure it's natural gas. Yeah. So yeah, mining industry chaos continues. That's the other thing. Like you had people. BlockFi was giving out a lot of loans. So that's like when you were moving rooms, I was talking about like the contagion that led to this. Celsius with CoreSci specifically, like Celsius was their biggest client on the hosting side. They went bankrupt. they were probably lending to a lot of miners as well. BlockFi was lending to a lot of miners. They went bankrupt. So there's a lot of bankruptcy proceedings. CoreSci is now bankrupt. What was their exposure to different lenders, to different miners on the hosting side? So there's still this like crazy entangled debt shit
Almost
show.
counterparty risk, and it's
So
just all
much.
entangled with each other.
Yeah, a lot of bankruptcies right now. So I think CoreSci deciding to continue mining through their bankruptcy proceedings is an interesting data point to hone in on, because that's been the question. What happens? What do creditors decide to do in the event of a bankruptcy? Do they force these miners to unplug, put their ASICs in a warehouse, and then decide what happens with those assets as the bankruptcy proceedings continue? Or do they try and keep them plugged in, produce revenue, and figure that out while all the stuff is plugged in? So it seems like with CoreSci, at least, they're going to keep them plugged in.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a unique situation because the collateral is actually depreciating in value. Like if the collateral was Bitcoin, you could go through like a long, lengthy bankruptcy proceeding, and in 2 years or whatever, the Bitcoin will retain its value or increase. But if it's ASICs, every second you don't have them running, it's just losing money.
Yeah. What do you think this means for overall hash rate? Or not overall hash rate, but state of the distribution mining? Do you think this will be a forcing function for more centralization, or is it a forcing function for more distribution of hash rate?
Well, bear markets in general usually result in more concentration of hash. But this cycle was a little bit interesting in that during the bull market, we saw the large publicly traded companies had much easier access to capital and debt markets. They were able to borrow so much money that they actually had got a massive lead, a lot of growth in the large public miners during the bull market. So, I mean, if you want to talk about distribution, censorship resistance, protocol level censorship risk because of large miners, seeing the largest public miner in the world go through bankruptcy and lose a bunch of their assets and lose a bunch of their hash is obviously a net win on that front. I mean, what we really want to see is, as these cycles continue to go through, and this is what I think both of us expect, is to see distribution of hash go to smaller operations, geographically distributed. And I think that happens as these ASICs, have longer lifetimes and they don't get obsolete so quickly, and they stay profitable for longer periods of time. That becomes more tenable, because one of the biggest issues for smaller mining ops is actually, acquiring the rigs at good prices and being able to run them, for a while. Because if it's a race for cheap energy, physics dictates that you can only get a certain amount of cheap energy in a given location. So that should benefit smaller miners, and especially miners that are utilizing waste heat. I mean, we see a lot of plebs now, winter months, using ASICs just to heat their homes. And if you want to do heat recapture, it's insanely easy to do it with 3 rigs in a forced air environment where you already have air ducts in your little house, compared to trying to do waste heat capture on a warehouse level.
Agreed. That's what I'm actually. Was it BTC Pins who made the enclosure for the S9 to use it as a space
CryptoClips.
heater? CryptoClips. That's what I'm looking for right now.
The 3D printed enclosure for an S9. And then you use Braiins with it and you underclock it so the fan speed doesn't annoy your wife.
Yeah, and he had a side-by-side comparison actually to an actual space heater, and it was actually more efficient on a watts, on like an electricity consumption standpoint. That's the tweet I'm looking for right now, which is massive.
And there's a bunch of people that are using modified coolers to do it. because coolers are already insulated and soundproof to a degree, which is cool. You just like put and this was like Diverter's original setup, but he wasn't using it for waste heat because he was ducting it out. But you basically put an intake hole on one side of the cooler, you put the exhaust hole on the other side of the cooler, and then you can duct it directly into well, you should use a filter, but you can duct it directly into forced air heat. If you have like central forced air heat running through your house already, you just like duct it right into the duct. You can even like pair that with an electronic thermostat if you wanted to, and it could turn them off and on at will.
Yeah. Yeah, it's gonna get crazy what you can do with this stuff. Logan, I just put a link to the
Yeah, he
crypto
pulled it up.
plugs. I'm looking for the tweet though. He had a side-by-side picture with an actual space heater and
The
the
only issue I
efficiency.
have with this design is the ASIC is pointed straight up, so the exhaust goes out the top. I mean, Marty, you have young kids. Like I see that grill on the top, like liquid is going straight into that grill.
Yeah, there'll be a lot of drool in there.
And
A lot of drool.
you'll be happy if it's water that goes in there, but if it's like juice or some shit,
All right, I found the tweet.
you're fucked.
No, but I think this is actually when we talk about like positioning Bitcoin mining like in the energy sector and combating the energy FUD. I mean, this is a great example. So you're using 650 watts mining Bitcoin to heat your home with an S9 versus 1500 watts, just burning electricity for a run of the
Heat.
mill. So you're cutting it down significantly by more than 50% in terms of electricity consumption to get the same result, the same amount of heat in your house, and you're actually making money doing it. So like anybody who's saying that Bitcoin's wasting energy is a lie. You're actually saving energy here, making money, and have the same end result. Your house is warmer. It's pretty cool to see.
And you can make it even, I mean, it gets really interesting if you're bold about it and you go with a new gen Bitmain. I say Bitmain just so that you have Braiins. Personally, I prefer micro BT and the What's miners, but Braiins is nice because you can underclock them, get that fan speed. Because the fan noise is
Well,
the default fan noise is pretty unbearable.
you can underclock micro BTs too. You just gotta do it via their stock firmware.
But the stock firmware has 3 settings. It's like
Yeah, it's like
low, medium, like jet engine.
Yeah.
And even low is like, I don't know. You can do it, but you don't have as much control.
No. So this is really cool to see. So we started this, like, does this CoreSci stuff contribute to distribution hash rate? Matt said it depends on the life cycle of these ASICs. And I mean, if you're heating at home with an S9, you're obviously saving money in this situation, obviously because your heater is producing revenue. But as CryptoCloaks points out here, it's actually consuming less electricity as well. So you save on your bill that way as well, which is cool to see. And then bringing it back to a more macro view of hash rate, I think that's going to be a big lesson that miners take out of this cycle as well. Is like, I don't know if the multi-hundred megawatt massive mining farms are going to be the strategy going forward, just because of the amount of time it takes to actually build out the infrastructure to spin those up. 18 to 24 months, tens of millions of dollars put up front, a lot of time to actually, from putting a shovel into the ground to actually plugging in an ASIC. I think the strategy moving forward is going to be smaller, more distributed, 10, 20, 50 megawatt operations that can be spun up in a matter of a few months instead of a year and a half, 2 years. Because I think miners are really beginning to realize the name of the game is acquiring ASICs and plugging them in as quickly as possible. 2-year lead times on massive mining farms, even though they can provide economies of scale, you're just going to leave so much money on the table. in the interim, as hash rate is going up, that it may not be viewed as a wise decision moving forward. So I think that will actually, like on a larger scale, be beneficial for hash rate distribution as well. Diogenesis the Great, 650 watts produces.
I'm still here, by the way.
I assumed you were. What's going on? Is there a bat in your basement? Or
No, I could hear them in the pantry, so now I'm moving again.
what are these people doing? Isn't it it's like 40 degrees out and raining? Isn't it raining? Is it raining where you are?
Yeah, it is raining here.
Ba, 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 ba. What am I looking for here? Next on the list, 2 FTX execs plead guilty to criminal charges. So this was Caroline. Who else was it?
It was your boy, Gary Wang.
Gary Wang came out of nowhere, pled guilty. So this is people think that Caroline and Gary have been spilling the beans behind the scenes to get a sweetheart deal by basically pleading guilt and throwing SBF under the bus to get him to admit defeat. And yeah, that came out this week. He got extradited to the U.S. SBF did, and he got released on a $250 million bond yesterday, which is surprising considering that he only had $100,000 in his bank account, according to himself.
Well, his parents put up his parents put up $25 million in their house as collateral.
How much is their
But
house?
I will say, I know, right? I would say, like, there's like Alexei Pertsev, the Tornado Cash dev, got declined bail because he was a flight risk. We've said many times on this show that any Bitcoiners they don't like, they're going to determine that they're a flight risk because you can't prove that they don't have, other Bitcoin or quote unquote crypto at their disposal to leave, and they're going to use that against us. And the fact that he just got, bail so easily is a real fuck you.
Yeah. Yeah, fuck this guy. He's growing a beard. He's going to go chill out in California. So I think it was his parents put up $25 million. Number one, how do they have that as a professor
They're fucking
and a
loaded.
lawyer? Number two, put their house up a collateral. And then there was, I think I remember reading a line like there was a close family member or close friends of the family who put up capital as well for the bond. So who are those friends bailing him out? So yeah, he's going to be on house arrest at his parents' house in California until this trial proceeds. Honestly, I'm tired of this topic. Dude was obviously a scammer. Scammed a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, his two right-hand men, well, one was a woman, have already pled guilty to criminal charges, multiple counts of criminal charges. So it's only a matter of time, I think, that the same happens to SBF. And the criminal process does take a bit. So
Yeah.
And also, Barry Silbert still owes Gemini users $900 million. Just FYI.
What do you think's going to happen?
Like, if you want to go back and go through the timeline, like there's a timeline where SBF just freezes withdrawals, right? Doesn't allow 5 billion to leave the platform, freezes withdrawals, and right now we're like 40 days in, 50 days in to him making up bullshit excuses about why withdrawals aren't open yet, and how he's going to make it right, which is basically what Barry Silbert's plan has been.
Yeah. I mean, is the end product of what Barry's doing just something similar, maybe not as overtly criminal, but
Yeah, I mean, he didn't have the FTT Ponzi scheme that backed the whole thing.
No,
He just basically had a bunch of other smaller ones that were
but
run
maybe
by
that,
other people that he
yeah,
supported.
but yeah, and not only that, like
Decentraland.
the GBTC trade, because remember that we talked about it in July, and then we brought it up
Fucking
again.
scam, man. Yeah.
Yeah, like they were producing shares in a shady way. Who knows
But I just
though?
want to make that, yeah. Yeah, I mean, that whole thing is not only it was reckless, it was completely shady. They did like no risk management whatsoever. But I just want to be clear to the freaks, like that's the usual situation. Like it's rare for an exchange that's insolvent, that's operating offshore, to like just immediately declare bankruptcy. Would let people withdraw up until the point where they're completely and utterly insolvent, and then just like immediately declare bankruptcy. When people talk about concerns around CZ and Binance, which, by the way, not your keys, not your coins. If you haven't withdrawn from custodians yet, get the fuck on it, and learn how to self custody. Um, like if Binance goes down, like it's going to be, withdrawals will be frozen for months before there's any kind of, and then there'll be bullshit circulating and all this other news. Like that's the normal situation. That's that's
Yeah,
the that's the status quo situation when you see these exchanges and custodians go down.
yeah, that's what happened with Gox. I believe they halted
It was
withdrawals
like
like
6 months.
January 2014, and then officially later that year, like, yeah,
First they
we
like
don't have the
stopped
Bitcoin.
fiat, or first they stopped Bitcoin. Like it was intermittent. It was like withdrawals get processed after 2 weeks, and then it just stopped completely.
Yeah. What are your thoughts? I mean, we said this, I believe it was last week or the week before. I mean, we don't think the probability of Binance being insolvent is anywhere close to where it was right before FTX blew up. I think if you look at on-chain data, they do have a significant dragon's horde of Bitcoin. Not to say that you shouldn't take your Bitcoin off the exchange. You should do that anyway. But um, have you been reading into this fuckery with Binance US and the intermingling of funds between Binance, the parent company, and Binance US, which have been marketed as completely separate and not interacting with each other?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a ton of fuckery going on.
Uh,
Uh, there always has been, right? I mean, but Binance is also, it's an exchange that is skirting U.S. regulations on a bunch of different ways, right? Including launching their own token, that is traded on their own exchange. So, like a lot of the concerns around Binance is getting commingled with this, Binance breaking, money service business regulation and financial regulations and all that stuff, um, which I would say is distinctly different from outright fraud against your customers and your users. But
Agreed.
of course, there's always a possibility. I mean, I still think the single biggest risk to Binance is the U.S. government, and that has been the case for a while. It's kind of similar to a Tether situation. Like there's so much shady shit that's going on, and that has gone on in Tether and has gone on many times in the past. But they're also, trying to run, transfer billions of dollars around the world without U.S. government permission. So like that's never going to happen without shady shit,
Yeah. No, there should have
unless you
been
use Bitcoin.
anybody who was paying attention should have seen the massive signal that there's something going on between Binance US and the parent company. It's not supposed to be a direct parent company. When Brian Brooks is a former um, comptroller of the currency here in the US, joined to be there. I forget if it was a CFO or their head of policy or whatever, and then quickly left 3 months later. Didn't really say anything about it. So we definitely
Probably
hopped in
signed an
there.
NDA.
Yeah, hopped in
Yeah.
there, saw what was going on, and then got the fuck out. There probably is something there. What we got next?
And then there's the other thing that just came out about Binance about like not proper chain history on BNB and like tokens made out of thin air. I mean,
That's not shocking.
that should not be shocking to anybody. You know, Binance Smart Chain is not decentralized; it's completely centrally controlled. The token is largely held by insiders. There's the governance is completely centralized. Like these things are decentralized in name only. They just slap it decentralized on the marketing label to try and skirt regulators that don't really know what they're doing.
Yeah. Just learn how to take self-custody of your coins. Learn how to run your own full node. Learn how to stay, learn that internalize that yield does not exist in a Bitcoin standard. Take advantage of all these properties that enable you to take control of your wealth, and you will not have to worry about this. You'll be able to join Matt and I. We can make fun of these people week in and week out. Back to Nostra. What's going on Twitter? Have you noticed all the UI improvements too?
Look, I mean, Elon's no fan of privacy. That has always been the case. It's very obvious. I mean, Tesla knows where your car is at all times. They can brick your car at any time. Starlink knows where your location is at all times. Twitter is now prioritizing people with a blue check, which you can buy for $8, but you need to dox yourself with a verified phone number, and they're blocking known burner phone numbers. You can probably get around it anyway, but let's be honest, 99% of people who do the blue checks are just going to use their fully KYC'd phone number that they've used for every service for the last 30 years. That leaks a ton of information about themselves. And so he's basically building the incentives in for users that do dox that personal information to have a priority experience. Their replies will be higher. Their tweets will get more reach. It's a dark incentive. But then on top of that, they also announced while the World Cup was going on, which I think was intentional, that they were going to prevent cross promotion of other social media platforms on Twitter. And interesting enough, Nostr was included in there. There's a lot of obvious ones like Facebook and Instagram, Mastodon, Truth Social, Tribal, Post, but they also have Nostr in there, which is probably because Dorsey has been very vocal about Nostr. One obvious miss there is TikTok or WeChat, which Elon has said many times that he wants to make Twitter the TikTok of the West, or the WeChat of the West. So yeah, I mean, I think the interesting thing about Elon taking over is Twitter was dying slowly and was completely corrupt and fucked. So the bar was really low, and it's nice to have a chaos play. But you can kind of see him, first of all, destroying the open discussion that makes Twitter special, which is the ability to use it in a relatively private way and join the discussion, even if you're a NIM. And also try and build up walled gardens around Twitter, where, Twitter has always been a kind of like a homepage of the internet, right? Where it's more of an open platform, even though there was obviously lots and lots of censorship. So I think he's just making a lot of short-sighted decisions. His back is up against the wall, but I think long-term, when we look back, people will realize that these were massive mistakes, not just on an ethical point of view, but also just from a business point of view. If you are a Twitter shareholder, not a public shareholder, but if you're a Twitter private shareholder, you should be very concerned right now.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, it's funny because when Elon took over, everybody was like, yeah, free speech is back, and they were cheering him on. And I'll admit, even I was like, all right, cool, it's good to see that accounts that were banned are coming back. But it seems like, I don't want to use biblical terms, so false prophet may be a way to describe Elon. Everybody thinks he's going to come and save things. But as you mentioned, he's very publicly postured that he wants to turn it into WeChat. He's got very close connections with Tencent. Obviously, with Tesla, a lot of what they're trying to do is heavily dependent on supply chains in China. So he has to posture toward the CCP in a very specific fashion that is probably not as, doesn't allow him to be as, can't really talk bad about the CCP. What's the word I'm looking for? You can't be critical of the Chinese Communist Party. That's the word I was looking for. You'll probably see that play out with Twitter. Yeah, so everybody's like, Elon's a savior, he's a smart billionaire, like builder. I don't know. It's then when you take a suite of products, the cars that follow you, SpaceX, I mean, the rockets landing back on Earth is pretty cool, but then Starlink, like, is there an attack vector there or a centralization factor if Starlink becomes the predominant satellite internet of the world?
Well, you can't use Starlink. Not only the censorship risk, you can't use Starlink without giving up your location to their servers. Obviously, that your local dish needs to know the location by design to be able to find the satellites, like the best angle to connect to the Starlink satellites. But that information does not need to be sent to their servers. They choose to have it sent to their servers. I think ultimately the argument comes back down to if we're building for our future, if we're building for a robust future that our kids can grow up in and have a relative level of freedom, like, we have to move away from centralized systems, period. Right. So if it comes down to people sitting around trying to read the tea leaves of whatever, benevolent or not, or malicious, malevolent dictator is deciding because they have central control, if there's a centralized entity that can be pressured, that can be corrupted, it will get pressured, it will get corrupted. And so we need protocols where there's no one in control. And that's the beauty of Bitcoin. And that's, one of the promising aspects of Nostr.
Yeah. And so how would you describe Nostr? I mean, obviously I had JB55 on Monday and we gave like a rehash, but it's not completely like there's centralized relays, but because you can choose to connect to any relays, it gives you more optionality and it makes the system more robust. There is, like, all the messages are essentially relayed through these individual servers, but due to the amount of servers that exist and the amount that you can connect to, the likelihood of censorship decreases.
Well, at the core, Nostr is simply an open communication protocol where you can communicate whatever information you want to communicate among these relays, and that's what's really cool about it. It's very simple. It's very simple, and then you can build stuff on top of it. On the Twitter side, like on the most common use case for it right now is as an alternative to Twitter. On that side, the single biggest, well, first of all, it's very easy to run your own relay, which is not the case with something like the Fediverse or Mastodon or whatever. The second thing is, if you have a relay that starts to censor you, let's say you're using a big corporate relay, I think like the expectation will probably be the majority of users will be using large corporate relays that will have their own censorship and moderation policies that people can essentially like subscribe to, right? Is if you start to have issues, you can actually leave with your followers, which is not the case with Mastodon, which is not the case with any of the centralized platforms, because it's all tied to a public-private key pair. So you might not, in worst case scenario, you might not have your post history, but your followers can move with you, which the people you follow and your followers can move with you, which is key in terms of actual user choice and user mobility, which we don't have.
Yeah, that
in other systems.
That is massive. When we talk about people being unpersoned on these social media networks, the way Nostr is set up, you can't really get unpersoned if one relay stops relaying your messages. You can just spin up your own, and if the people following you want to receive your messages, they can connect to your relay. You can get it out to them. So that's really cool. I'm bullish. I'm very bullish on it. It's been crazy seeing. It feels like something's happening. Just interacting with everybody on Nostr. Vibes are high. Very optimistic. We said this isn't going to be a doom rip. It's going to be a positive rip, and Nostr is providing a lot of reason to be positive.
Indeed, 100%.
This is interesting. Quadriga back in the news. QuadrigaCX, for those of you who are unaware, it was a Canadian exchange. The story behind it, they rug pulled a bunch of all of their customers at some point last year or the year before.
It's 2019, I think.
2019. The official story was that their founder, CEO, died in India or something like that.
And he died with the keys.
Yeah, he died with the keys. But they're back in the news because it seems that 5 wallets attributed to QuadrigaCX unexpectedly moved around 104 Bitcoin on December 17th for the first time. If you go to the tweet below this, I think 69 of those Bitcoin went to Wasabi or something like that.
Yeah, so I mean, there's a couple of things to unpack here. First of all, I believe it's Ernst & Young, the Big Four accounting firm, was handling the bankruptcy proceedings of Quadriga. Well, first of all, Quadriga, it hasn't been proven. I don't believe it's been proven in a court of law, but it was straight up fraud. And the founder might not have actually died. Like, he might still be alive, just FYI.
Yes.
It was one of the largest Canadian exchanges at the time. Founder dies under mysterious circumstances in India, and supposedly lost the keys with him dying. So then Ernst & Young is handling the bankruptcy, and in 2019 they fuck up, and they send 100 Bitcoin to addresses that supposedly nobody had control over anymore, and that they died with the founder access to that Bitcoin. That Bitcoin has not moved since they sent it until this week. That Bitcoin got moved. The majority of the Bitcoin was sent into Wasabi, CoinJoin tool. Now, this is also an interesting aspect. Wasabi rightfully, got a lot of shit, or specifically ZK Snacks, the company that maintains Wasabi and runs the default coordinator that coordinates these collaborative transactions, these coin joins, rightfully got a lot of pressure from us and from others in the community, because they chose to use chain surveillance on the input side of these coin joins. So when you send Bitcoin into Wasabi wallet, and then it's getting built into a collaborative transaction, before it can get included in a collaborative transaction, a chain surveillance firm is looking at that Bitcoin and determining if it's on a blacklist and whether or not it's allowed into the coin join. So that has two main issues. Well, the first main issue is obviously, like, this is not a permissionless tool. This is a tool that you can be blocked from using. The second main issue is that every time you use Wasabi CoinJoin and you pay your CoinJoin fee to them, a portion of that fee is going to the enemy, is going to a chain surveillance firm. So, but in this case, like, this person who's ever in control of these keys, obviously it's not their Bitcoin. This is a criminal act sending this Bitcoin into Wasabi, and they didn't blacklist the transaction. Like, it just went right into the coin join. So they're spying on all their inputs, but they're not actually using it for its desired purpose.
Just interesting.
Yeah, it'll be a good test. I think it'll be a decent test of Wasabi 2.0, which is their new coin join protocol, because we'll see if this gets unwound. Because obviously the play here, whoever has control of it, the play here was to get the 100 Bitcoin out, be able to use the 100 Bitcoin without it being tracked and blacklisted on other exchanges.
Checking Ergo BTC's page right now to see if he's on top of it. I'm sure he is. He hasn't tweeted anything about it yet.
That's a crazy story. I mean, it's It's pretty crazy seeing those addresses move. And shout out Zach
Right.
XPT, who does all this analysis and research, mostly focused on scammers. Uh, dude does great work.
He really does. Yeah, the Quadriga story stinks. That dude, I don't think that dude's dead. If you look into it, it seems like there was a forged death certificate.
Never saw a body.
Never saw a body. Apparently he had like Crohn's disease or something like that. I try to say he died of that, which isn't really common. Yeah, I think what was it like hundreds of thousands of Bitcoin that were on Quadriga, right?
I don't know. It was a while ago. It was a lot.
Right. Again, I mean,
But he was also doing shady shit where like it came out afterwards. He was like trading customer funds and like he would like
mhm,
send customer funds to BitMEX and then go like
yeah,
50x long.
yeah, degenerates. Do not give up your
Do
Bitcoin.
not trust do not trust people with your Bitcoin. It's not your Bitcoin if they're holding it. It's an IOU.
Uh, that's actually, I mean, I've been saying this a few times in the newsletter and on TFTC. I'm not sure if I said it here. Oh yeah, I did say it here when we had Michael on, but that's the thing. I think the biggest lesson that we're learning first 14 years of Bitcoin is that people are trying to apply and fit Bitcoin into the traditional financial products mindset, where you just use Bitcoin as this tool to get yield, to do that, to do another thing. It just doesn't work due to how scarce Bitcoin is and how big the incentive is to mismanage funds to try and make a bunch of money. So I think that's going to be the big lesson of the first 14 years at least. Who knows, it may take a bit longer, is that just under a Bitcoin standard, or if you're using Bitcoin, like trying to apply incumbent financial product models to Bitcoin just isn't going to work. You're going to end up losing customer Bitcoin um, at worst, or committing fraud, or losing customer Bitcoin at best, committing fraud at worst. Um, and the companies that are going to win out moving forward are those that leverage Bitcoin's native properties, particularly multi-sig, that make it so you cannot mishandle user funds, or if you do mishandle user funds, it becomes glaringly obvious to the user, since they have some skin in the game in the key quorum, and they have visibility into the address where the Bitcoin is supposed to be held. And I think, obviously, Unchained, the sponsor, they've been building this primitive for years. I think they're going to be extremely validated moving forward, and that'll be the standard if you're going to build. I'm not saying any of you freaks have to engage in using financial products with your Bitcoin, but I do think they will be built out. And if they are, it's going to have to be built using multi-sig and these key quorums, and distributing risk among different stakeholders engaged in
Yeah,
these financial products.
Unchained's an interesting case study because I mean, I think it's clear proof on two things. It's clear proof that businesses that are built on with low time preference thought process, that are built for long term sustainable business with strong fundamentals, will succeed in the long run. I mean, a lot of people said that they should do what BlockFi was doing, which is rehypothecation as a service and lending out customer Bitcoin. BlockFi like sprinted up to a $4 billion valuation and now is worthless. Meanwhile, Unchained, continues to push forward, have more clients, and have more Bitcoin in collaborative custody with them. And then the second part of the case study that is really clear to me is Bitcoin only isn't simply this ideological concept that's like based on ethics or morals or something like that. It actually benefits a lot of these businesses from a strictly business economic perspective, and that being with Unchained situation is even the other type of custodial partners you can use, something like a Fireblocks or something. They don't use native Bitcoin multisig because they need to be able to support all these shitcoins that don't have those multi-sig features, right? So they do like multi-party computation. They're like doing all this like crazy complicated bullshit because they want to be able to support every token under the sun. Meanwhile, Unchained is relying on foundational Bitcoin native multisig. that is a lot more robust and secure than what all these other games are being played. So I actually think, I think there's a very, very, very strong argument that companies that are focused on Bitcoin, focused on building on Bitcoin, focused on using the best features that Bitcoin provides them are going to be extremely better suited in the long term over companies that try and spread themselves thin and support every altcoin, and then just kind of the perception of success happens very fast, and then all of a sudden, the blinds get pulled away, and you realize that they're completely fucked.
Yeah. Again, you can't rehypothecate Bitcoin and think there's going to be a good outcome. Like, it's great. Yeah, BlockFi was valued at $4 billion earlier this year, and people were begging Unchained to. Unwise people were begging Unchained to add similar services, and this is why they didn't. This is why they don't. This is why they won't, because it's going to lead you astray and lead you to insolvency at some point, and that's a hard thing under Bitcoin standards. Actually, building good products that make profit margin, that don't take on too much risk, in the world that we've lived in the last 2 decades, particularly where interest rates have been extremely low, money's been flowing, and the nonchalant nature with which people have taken risks has been completely normalized. It's a bit counterintuitive that you would have somewhat of a conservative business model like an Unchained of the world. And, I think that's it's actually contrarian in today's day and age, is to have that very conservative approach to this stuff. But yeah, I completely agree. Like companies like Fireblocks and everybody who has to take on the engineering lift of managing all these different chains, it's going to bite them in the ass in the long run. And I think companies like that too will cease to exist in the long run. First time I've got a dog in my background here.
Yeah, I mean, you see it all across the industry, right? You see it with companies like River that have that were one of the first to have Lightning support, while Coinbase is stuck, adding Poop Token and Cumrocket, and then you see it with companies like Cold Card that were the first to offer actual multi-sig address verification on device, while other hardware wallets were like trying to do staking from your hardware wallet, or DeFi from your hardware wallet, quote unquote DeFi, right? So you see it all throughout the space, and I think the companies that remain focused on with eyes on the prize and build for the long term will be significantly better off.
Low time preference freaks, implement it into your business strategy if you're building in the space. All right, last topic before we get to shoutouts and then software updates is the Human Rights Foundation awarded another $325,000 in new grants to 12 projects across 5 continents. Gleb Nalmenko.
Love to see it.
Got one, and he's going to be working on covenants, he said. On
shout out Gleb, appreciate you, bro. Thank you.
Yeah, he's going to continue his work on CoinPool. Hopefully him and Antoine can continue doing their security research as well. So shout out to Gleb, doing incredible things. Shout out to HRF for getting him this grant. And then there was another $50,000 grant given out to Furzy to work on Bitcoin Core, addressing stability, security, performance features. Bitcoin for India got 25 grand. Bitcoin Mountain got 25 grand. We Are All Satoshi, an Africa-based organization that aims to identify teenage women and men from all religious backgrounds interested in tech and help steer them contributing to Bitcoin, got 25 grand. Tor relay operator associations got 25 grand. Bitcoin Magazine Ukraine, 20,000 to Dusty, who's been working on lightning splicing with D++, which is a really cool way to balance your channels. He got 25 grand. Receive 22. Was doing media coverage in the Arab world, got 25 grand. New Belarus, got 25 grand, 15 grand to the Africa Bitcoin Conference, and then 10 grand to our good friends at Bitcoin Plus Plus. Lisa, Carr, everybody building that
Shout
out.
out Lisa. Appreciate you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
More
to the
rats.
freak who's asking in the comments, the fish behind me is a dolphin bull, commonly known as a mahi mahi, because people don't want to eat dolphin at restaurants, so now they call them mahi mahis. Caught it in Florida.
Oh, you caught it. It's not just
Yes, sir.
it's a beautiful
Also
fish.
not an intentional background. I'm just trying to escape the neighbor's gardeners.
Are they still there?
I just keep hearing them from different directions. I'm a little bit scarred.
You're gonna go black in 5 minutes, and we're gonna come back to you in a bathroom. You're like in the shower.
In like in a bathtub.
All right, I'm safe here. All right, moving on. We're almost an hour and a half in. This is a fun rip. We got to tighten it up though. We've got shout outs. First one. It's a bit here's a Christmas shout out to you freaks. 'Twas the rip before Christmas in my humble abode, where wasabi and sparrow won't connect to my node. My sons and my niece and nephews are screaming. Their laughter warms hearts like the lights that are gleaming on our Christmas tree's branches. A real tree to be sure, as I keep my December tradition once more, sending sats to my boys, Odell and Marty, with this Yuletide shout out at RHR Christmas party. Shout out to Tony, a ride or die freak. His dad pleading in Italian that he should sell as we speak. Shout out to Joel and the whole OK gang. Can't wait for my next trip to the Citadel to hang. Congrats to Sean on the birth of your son. He might one day rule Canada once the commies are done. Shout out to Grant and Jonathan, all in on your vision. Grateful to share in the fruits of your mission. To the freaks in Australia, glad you're out of the camps. To the freaks with IOUs from exchanges withdrawal before they close the ramps. Grateful for all y'all. And having said all that, we got it continued here. Merry Christmas to all. Stay humble, stack sats. Sending my wishes for peace and love. I remain humbly yours, the Serpent Dove. That was really good.
Cheers. It sounded too good to be AI, so appreciate you, freak.
Yeah,
Merry
there's too many.
Christmas.
There's too many inside jokes for it to be ChatGPT.
That was great. Good reading, Marty. You did good.
I had not read that until I just read it. I hope I did okay. Shout out to you, Serpent Dove. Appreciate the shout outs. Bought 2 for that one because you got to continue it. So got a 2 for there. Yeah, it's a very good Christmas poem. Hey guys, first off, I want to wish you, your families, and all the freaks a very Merry Christmas. Second, I wanted to remind the freaks that we are down to the final 2 weeks of our fundraiser for the free church-ran summer day camp. Currently, we have raised right under 1.7 million sats between Geyser and our website, www.creeksidesummercamp.com. The fundraiser runs through January 4th. I would also like to shout out Geyser Fund. They've built an awesome platform, and I check the Discover page almost daily now. Finally, thanks to all the freaks that have donated. It is truly appreciated. Your friend, Hunter Biggs. Shout out to Hunter. You guys want to support the Creekside Summer Camp, go to creeksidesummercamp.com. And we'll be collecting funds for the next 15 days. Got a lot of shout outs.
Appreciate you, freak.
We've got 5. Merry Christmas, Matt and Marty. I hope you have a great holidays with your families and enjoy some good food as well. Love the rips. Stay humble. And stack sats from an anonymous freak.
Great advice. Merry
Thank
Christmas.
You. We got 7 fishes tomorrow. Are you doing 7 fishes?
I got one behind me.
That's a good one. My wife's got some Italian on her side of the family, so we're going to do 7 fishes tomorrow. Do you guys do that at all?
We used to.
Yeah. All right, last shout out of the week. Hope you don't mind us taking this opportunity to promote the upcoming Running Bitcoin Challenge. Join Fran Finney and the Running Bitcoin Challenge committee as we honor legendary cypherpunk Hal Finney. This is the event that combines Hal Finney's love of running and Bitcoin. We are raising funds and awareness to help defeat the hideous disease, ALS, that claimed his life. You are challenged to run/walk the equivalent of 21 kilometers, one halfin, cumulatively or all at once from January 1st until January 10th, 2023. Fundraise a minimum of 100/700,000 sats by, I'm guessing this is per person, January 10th, and you will receive the official, if you personally fundraise $100 or 700,000 sats by January 10th, you will receive the official Running Bitcoin Challenge running shirt. Our top 25 fundraisers, sats and USD combined, will also receive a rare Hal Finney collectible autographed by Fran Finney. Spread the word about Bitcoin. Take sovereignty of your health. Feel good about doing your part to defeat ALS and start the year off right. Sign up at www.runningbitcoin.us. www.runningbitcoin.us.
Awesome. Great cause. So much respect for Hal and his wife, Fran. We never mentioned that
We didn't.
his Twitter account became active, and I think Lop sounded the alarm like right away, and he was like, I think there's a scammer out there. Hal Finn just followed me. But it turns out it was Fran because she wanted to make sure Elon didn't delete Hal's account for being inactive. So she went on there and just posted real quick. So yeah, that's great. We definitely don't want his account to be deleted. And his famous running Bitcoin tweet.
Running Bitcoin. I'm working on ways to make Bitcoin more private, thinking about how Bitcoin will affect CO2 emissions. Some great early tweets from Hal that were a bit prophetic. He was way ahead of the game, obviously. First person to ever receive a transaction outside the Coinbase reward, Hal Finney. All right, here we go. Software updates. We're going to run through these. Zeus version 0.7.0 has been released. It's a major update. So they have Lightning Node Connect now. New default home screen, BIP21, unified QR codes is pretty big. BTC LN Bank support, LND support for channel alias skids, new clipboard UX, better fee UX for LND, 5 new themes. So if you're running Zeus, as I am, no need to rush to upgrade, but this upgrade is available if you're interested.
Zeus is amazing. It's the best way to manage your own node use your own Lightning node from your phone. Lightning Node Connect here is the really big update. It's actually something that Evan, the lead maintainer of Zeus, has helped with on the LND side. And it basically allows you to connect back to your home node without using Tor. So you get a way more performant experience. Like a lot of people who have been using Tor to connect back to their home node might think that Zeus is not stable or it's sluggish, but it's really all on Tor. So if you switch to Lightning Node Connect, you will have a much better experience. So then for the average user, it comes down to, okay, like, does your node support Lightning Node Connect yet? If you're using one of these node packages, I don't believe them. They're kind of rolling it out now. The big one that's not there yet, but should be there soon, is Voltage. So right now, I believe Voltage does not support Lightning Node Connect yet. So don't spend a bunch of time looking through the settings there to try and figure it out. But it should be supported soon.
Yeah, massive upgrade. Like Matt said, I co-sign. Zeus is what I use to connect with my Lightning node, manage it on the go, send from it on the go if I need to, and it's by far the best out there.
And we can see all you freaks streaming us sats at almost every minute of every day on mobile on Zeus. That's the other thing they have. I think they actually have like an interactive UX now that like auto updates. That might have been the last update. But yeah,
we can see it right here. And all those sats streaming in.
Super cool. Appreciate you, freaks.
Yeah. Go check it out. Shout out to Evan, everybody contributing to Zeus. You guys are building an incredible product that I use. So thank you for doing that. And UI update's really sleek. It's more intuitive. Alby.
Also, Zeus has a donation page on their website. Consider supporting it. It's an open source project that we all rely on. And if you put your Twitter handle in, you'll get like a cool little badge on the website that shows that you supported them.
We're gonna have to do that. We should add their since we're using it, we should probably add that donation or their Lightning public node to some of the stat streaming.
Well, I have my personal. I made a personal donation to Zeus, so my profile picture is up on the donation page, and Citadel Dispatch gives Zeus a split every time you stream sats to Citadel Dispatch. Some goes to it. It's a little bit of a delicate situation because I added a bunch of open source projects onto the split, and then all the podcasting 2.0 apps got mad at me because when you do the splits, it's not a custodial thing, right? It's individual payments. So as you add splits, it's like, okay, now I'm sending out every minute. I'm sending 6 individual payments out onto the network, 7 individual payments out onto the network. So it's a little bit of a balancing act, which is, one of the reasons why I do encourage podcasting 2.0 hosts that want to support open source projects. A very low lift thing to do is to just put open sats in the split, which is what we do on Rabbit Hole Recap. And then our board can then distribute it out, in lump sums. It's just another option available to you.
Be aware, freaks. Yeah, they need to figure out. Be good. Like trying to think about the splits, like the boost, or just like the splits of podcasting 2.0. Like, is there a way to set it up where you split it, and 10% goes to one address, and that auto forwards like 3. Then like one of the 3 auto forwards to 2. You have like this Merkle tree.
Well, I don't love that because then you're essentially adding custodians along the hops.
Because auto forward doesn't just automatically happen.
What, I mean, if you're sending it to a pub key, that's going to then split it out to other pub keys. Like whoever controls that pub key is a custodian.
Yeah, there's got to be ways to figure it out though.
Still very early.
Yeah. So be aware. Alby version 1.21.0 has been released. It's a pretty major release. They added support for WebLN and WebBTC interface. It's making it easier than ever to build a full Lightning web application, accessing the LND and CLN APIs. Alby making some progress here. Matt's talking to people.
Love to see it.
Who are you messaging right now? What are they saying?
What?
Who are you messaging right now? I can see you typing.
No, I was messaging my lady asking if these guys have fucking left already.
I think you should just. People are loving the mahi mahi. I think we should just.
I'll just stay here.
He's still loud. Tails version 5.8 has been released. Tails, not directly connected to Bitcoin, but it is a great way if you want to.
Well, it has Electrum built in.
It does have Electrum built in, but it's the most important release of Tails.
Tails
in years.
is fucking awesome.
It's got a major redesign of existing features, important usability improvements, and hardened security. So Tails, you download it.
Have you ever used Tails, Marty?
I have not, but I should test it out.
It is fucking awesome.
Essentially, just Tails, you operating system on a USB, and you plug it in, right?
Yeah, but it's a privacy-focused operating system on a USB, and the whole idea is, first of all, it has Tor built in by default, so everything is routed through Tor. But then also, as soon as you unplug the USB, everything is supposed to be wiped by default. So they call it an amnesic operating system because the operating system has amnesia that forgets everything when you unplug it. And it's just, you feel super hacker man because you pull the USB and then just like, you just see all these lines just like roll down the screen. Just it's just cool looking.
Yeah.
And they have
So
Electrum built in. I would love if they get Sparrow built in. I'm trying to meme that into reality.
Are you in contact with the Tails team and all? Do you know who they are? They a bunch of names.
There's people talking about it, yeah.
Okay, good. So that's out there again, version 5.8. If you're using that big security UI,
it's a really easy way to make. It's a really easy way to make cold storage addresses too, because you like open up Electrum, you run Tails, then you open up Electrum, then you create a new wallet, write down the seed words, and then you have a. Then it just gives you an address to send the funds to. And when it comes time to spend from it, you just do the opposite.
Yeah.
It used to be my main method for cold storage until all of our tooling improved everywhere else.
Because you could do that, since it has Electrum, you could do it without booting and connecting to the internet, right?
Yep.
So hypothetically,
because you don't even have to install Electrum; it comes pre-installed.
Yeah. We have 2 Btcpay Server updates here.
That's your dog.
That is our dog, yeah. That's my
That's great.
Sister and brother-in-law's dog, a French bulldog.
It only took 4 years for Marty to have a dog in the background. I haven't had a dog in the background all episode.
No, but you have had landscapers.
It's only because my dogs have no idea where I am in the house right now. They're like, "Where the fuck is he? We're supposed to be barking on the show."
That was the funny comment from Rob Hamilton. The landscapers must be really bad if Matt has been forced to doing a guided tour of his house. Dogs can't find him. What happened to Btcpay? We have 2 versions here: 1.7.2, 1.7.
It was a quick bug fix release on 1.7.3.
That's what I figured. I'm looking to see what the bug is. If using Elon Bank, Elon invoices are not generated after the upgrade to version 1.7.2. So yeah, if you're using Elon Bank, you're going to want to use 1.7.3. LBK version 0.0.113 has been released. This was cool.
You're gonna read all the?
No, I'm not reading that. We're moving on. We're moving on to bigger and better things, which is a Satscard bounty for Breez. Rodolfo, how much is it? 25 million sats? 5 million sats? That was 25 million sats. I can't see what the bounty is, but there's a bounty out.
5 million sats.
5 million.
5 million sats.
5 million
so 5 million sats. 5 million sats is like $800.
Yeah. So there's bounty for around $800 right now, but if Bitcoin goes up in value, it could be worth a lot more in the future if you're willing to write the code that integrates Satscard compatibility with the Breez wallet. Satscard obviously uses the NFC protocol to communicate between the card.
I mean, at the current price, if you integrate this into Breez, you can go out and then buy 40 Sats cards.
It's not a bad deal. They're giving Sats cards out for Christmas.
I would love to see Satscard integrated into all these different good mobile wallets. So love to see it.
Same as well. This was interesting to see. Paul Sztorc launched a company focused on drive chains. Layer 2 Labs raised how much? 3 million from Roger Ver and a couple others.
You know what's the problem with Satscard real quick? Because they have all these like cool customized designs. I love giving away open dimes. Historically, I've always given away open dimes. But now, because I'm just like, I think most Bitcoiners are like predisposed to being like collectors. It's like, I don't want to give away, like if I only have one design of a Sats card, like I'd rather just hold on to it. But while the open dimes, like there was like 3 different versions of open dimes, but they were mostly the same. So it's like I could buy 20 open dimes give away 18 of them and like keep 2 for myself for long-term keeping or whatever. But with the Satscards, it's like, do I have another one of this design? Got to make sure I have like the full collection. Like really FOMOs you a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we have 1031 Satscards. They're really clean. The mempool one that you posted, their collab.
The mempool one is so fucking nice. That started shipping. Yeah, I mean, I think, yeah, I'm giving out open dimes for Christmas still because I bought a lot of them. I still have a lot of open dimes to give out. But then once I move to Satscards, I'm going to need to make sure that I have multiples so that I don't give away my only one of a given design. But we can move to Paul Sports.
Paul Sports, layer 2, $3 million raise.
So did he really get money from Roger Ver? I didn't see that.
At least I thought I heard that. I don't know where he got it from.
I thought the funding was not, they didn't tell us the funding.
Maybe I thought I saw people on Twitter talking about that. Could be.
In the press release and on their website, they didn't tell us the funding.
No.
But anyway,
could be a bad rumor.
Drive chains require a soft fork, whether that's BIP 300 or BIP 301. So, and based on what we've been hearing, it's not going to happen. So, yeah. Bitcoin is extremely hard to change by default. It's a feature, not a bug. And this does not seem like it has anywhere near the level of support to achieve a successful soft fork here.
Yeah, because I love Paul. I've always had great discussions with him in person on the show, but I think the whole I don't really think like altcoin usability or use cases. I don't really want any of that. Like I just
don't understand. And it's like, it's a similar argument I have with Taro. Like, I just don't understand the obsession with trying to get shitcoin functionality onto Bitcoin and just complicating everything. Just like if you want shitcoin functionality, use shitcoins. We can't, like censorship resistant versions can't compete with the centralized alternatives in terms of convenience and cost. That's like the whole fundamental trade-off balance. So if we're going to sacrifice censorship resistance anyway, why does it need to be built connected to Bitcoin and connected to Bitcoin incentives? It just seems like a false premise.
Yeah.
But anyway, congrats to Paul for raising $3 million. I know he really cares about this, so.
I do as well. We'll see. It'll be interesting to see. Is this like the first ever company that raised money around advocating for a soft fork in Bitcoin Core? I mean, obviously.
What about Lightning Labs?
Yeah. For L2 specifically, or?
For a bunch of things.
Yeah.
Transaction malleability.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is a very good point. So no, layer 2 is not. Lightning Labs has been here. And I got me thinking. We got to wrap up here. My niece and nephew are coming home. I don't want them to not be able to play in their playroom. LastPass compromised. Not good.
This is fucked up.
Not good. Beware, freaks, if you're using LastPass.
Do you use LastPass?
No, luckily I do not.
So LastPass is obviously a centralized password manager, which has the brilliant idea of taking all your sensitive information and putting it in one centralized location. But they do encrypt by default with your master password, which is never sent to the server and is kept locally. These master passwords have supposedly not been compromised. A reminder that a modified LastPass client could scoop up master passwords if you were talking about like government level spying, right? Like NSA level spying or one of these intelligence agencies. So basically a hacker got intimate personal information, right? The usual stuff that we all hate to see get leaked: email addresses, IP addresses, names, locations, partial credit card information. That was all unencrypted, but they also got the encrypted blob, basically the encrypted data store that holds people's passwords for all their different websites that they use. Um, and that is a hacker could get access to it if they could figure out your master password, if they could brute force your master password. So if you have a weak master password, it's too late to improve that situation now. It will probably get brute forced. Going forward, you should make sure that your passwords are secure, particularly the password that is securing all your other passwords. And you should consider self-hosted alternatives like Bitwarden, KeePass, that's KEE Pass, which is an open source local password manager, or take a good old fashioned notebook and write your passwords in the fucking notebook, because that's offline and someone needs to get physical access to obtain it. So
Tried and true strategy.
I've long been concerned about, and we've talked about this in the past, this move to these centralized password managers. It's a convenience versus privacy and security trade-off, and I think it's very risky, particularly when it comes to like state actors and intelligence agencies.
I mean, I think that was the biggest peace of mind that I gained after spinning up Embassy OS for the first time, was using Bitwarden with my Embassy, since it's self-hosted on the computer in my house. That was like the craziest, like actual like mental burden lift from like a security perspective, was knowing that my passwords are being secured on this computer in my house, not in the cloud or anything like that.
I really like the notebook method.
Yeah, that's a good method as well.
And it doesn't have to be for all your passwords, but the most important ones, you can put in a notebook. It's a very easy, low lift way to know that you have offline secure storage of your passwords.
Yeah, and work on your penmanship, freaks. Make sure you don't have chicken scratch. In the digital age, people are losing the old art of writing clearly and eloquently on pieces of paper. Bring it back. Write your passwords down in a notebook. Maybe put that notebook in a safe too, and it's hard to find. This is the one last thing. I mean, we could talk about the omnibus bill, and we'd just be beating a dead horse. Government's spending $1.7 trillion, a bunch of corruption and shit.
We already voted no on the Twitter poll anyway. Did you see Elon put a Twitter poll on?
I did not.
It was like 75% no. It was like, should we pass a $1.7 trillion spending bill? And then I think he tagged a bunch of politicians in afterwards. He's like, we already voted on it. You guys can just go back to the drawing board.
Well, I think I doubt the politicians will listen to that. I don't think they've officially voted on it yet. I don't think it's officially passed, but it's out there. $1.7 trillion, a lot of fluff, a lot of, in my opinion, wasted taxpayer money, but it's par for the course in the cloud world that we live in. You hearing the dog?
Oh, I like what?
You hearing the dog? There he is right here.
Yeah. I like there's a lot of creative things you can do. Dean Holter in the comments said, get a business card, print the logo that corresponds to the password, write the password on the card, and store it in a metal card holder that you can hide in the freezer.
That's a good idea, Dan.
Then you have to go into your freezer every time you're signed in, though. Just keep that in mind.
Be aware. Be aware. Last but not least on the list, I wanted to throw this up just to give a shout out to our boy Ryan Leachman. Incredible human, incredible oil and gas guy, incredible Bitcoiner. He's been operating upstream back in the oil and gas world after leaving J Energy. He's been tweeting a lot about what it's like to actually produce oil and gas in the United States, and his drilling team is currently out in Wyoming, weathering negative 66-degree Fahrenheit temperatures away from their families during Christmas and the holidays so that you, and me and our families can travel, be warm, and enjoy our holidays together. So, for an industry that has been extremely maligned here in the United States, it's been badmouthed, it's been demonized. People are trying to phase it out, despite the fact that it provides us with the quality of life that we enjoy today. It gives Matt and I the ability to sit here and stream over the internet using petroleum products. It allows us to drive home and fly home to our families to enjoy times. And it's not an easy job either. It's not for the faint of heart. It's for roughnecks, as they like to call them. So they're out there working 12-hour shifts, negative 66-degree weather, to produce oil and gas, to make sure that we're warm, and we're happy, and we're healthy, and we're with our families. And so shout out to everybody in the oil and gas industry for what you guys do. It does not look like fun, at least from my perspective.
100%. Very grateful, and grateful for everyone who helps support our infrastructure in this country, and to all the people that have to work during the holidays to make sure everything keeps going. Appreciate y'all.
Yeah, shout out to everybody who's going to be working at grocery stores, CVS's, 7-Elevens, gas stations on Christmas
100%.
Day. I always feel like the asshole if I ever have to go to one of those places on Christmas Day. There are always people there. Shout out to those people.
100%, 100%. And hopefully they can save into better money that increases in purchasing power over time.
Yeah, that's why we Bitcoin.
We have to read the Boostagrams.
Got him up right here. So nice. Here we go. Top four.
I think my phone's upstairs. I left it when I moved.
The gardeners got it. They're taking all your Bitcoin right now. You might want to go check that out. Rabbit hole recap. 231. There's a run on the Bitcoin banks. Top 4 boost. We've got one message and just 3 pure boost at candidate block. 87,428 sats. I'm trying to figure out the numerology here. It's just like a random large boost. Shout out to Candidate Block. Thanks for all the great content. Looking forward to 2023. Candidate Block, we are as well. We've got one more rip, 2022. Last rip of the year. Freak. And we'll be doing that next week. At Eric99, perennial booster of 50,105 sats. Giving us a little bit more than 50,000 this week. Shout out to you, Eric.
Thank you, sir.
No message. Chad Farrow, podcasting 2.0 OG, 50,000 sats. And that at Set in Stone.
Thank you, 21. Chad. Appreciate you.
21,000 sats. Appreciate you too, Chad.
Chad is awesome. I love Chad. Chad, I think, came into Bitcoin because of podcasting 2.0, which is cool.
Yeah, he came in from no agenda. He's like a no agenda.
Yeah, and now he's just he's down the rabbit hole hard.
Very hard. Well, welcome, Chad. Thank you for coming. And I'll read Vake's just because I think you'll appreciate this. I think it dovetails off of part of our conversation last week. 20,000 sats. Thank you guys for always giving a shit and never selling out your audience for easy money. Thank you, Vake.
Appreciate you, Vake. True ride or die freak.
We love you guys too much to sell you out for easy money.
It's true.
You're exhausted. You've got gardeners harassing you. It's Friday, December 23rd. It's the Festivus of 2022. Let's go enjoy our days. Let's go enjoy time with our families. Let's go enjoy the Christmas cheer.
Merry Christmas, Marty. Merry Christmas, Logan. Merry Christmas, freaks. Love y'all. Stay humble, stack sats.
Merry Christmas. Peace and love.